Welcome back to USA Coin Auctions. Coins, a family collection, an inherited coin album, or even a handful of old pennies, there is a good reason to take a closer look at every wheat pennies find. Some Lincoln wheat cents are ordinary 1-cent coins, but a small group of dates, mint marks, varieties, and extraordinary errors have become some of the most desirable coins in American numismatics. In today's collector market, the right wheat penny can move from an ordinary-looking copper coin into a piece worth hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, or in exceptional cases far more. In this video, we are counting down 5 of the most valuable and exciting wheat pennies that collectors should know, focusing on the coins that have created enormous interest because of rarity, historical importance, condition, and unique characteristics. Current PCGS pricing shows just how dramatically values can rise for major wheat cent rarities, especially in high grades. Let's start it. Number 1. The 1943 Steel Wheat Penny is one of the most fascinating 1-cent coins ever produced by the United States Mint, and it remains a major attraction for collectors who love historic American coins, wartime issues, and unusual minting stories. At first glance, this coin may look like an ordinary old penny, but the 1943 steel composition makes it immediately different from the traditional copper-colored wheat cents produced during surrounding years. The 1943 S example carries the important S mint mark identifying the San Francisco Mint, and examples preserved in uncirculated condition can command strong attention in the collector market. In today's rare coin world, condition, original surfaces, sharp details, certification, and overall eye appeal can make a dramatic difference in desirability and value. In this video, we are taking a close look at the history, unique characteristics, rarity, collector demand, and potential market values associated with the 1943 Steel Wheat Penny. If you have one of these historic pennies sitting inside an old collection, coin jar, family album, or inherited group of coins, this is exactly the kind of piece worth examining carefully. The story of the 1943 Steel Wheat Penny begins during World War II, when the United States was facing extraordinary demands for strategic materials. Copper was extremely important to the war effort because it was used for ammunition, electrical equipment, communications equipment, and many other military purposes. As the government and the mint looked for ways to reduce the use of copper in 1-cent coinage, a temporary solution was introduced in 1943. Instead of the traditional bronze composition, Lincoln cents were struck on zinc-coated steel planchets. This created the famous silver-gray appearance that separates the 1943 pennies from the copper-colored wheat cents of earlier and later years. The San Francisco Mint produced 1943 steel cents, adding the S mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. These coins were produced as part of a remarkable wartime experiment, and their connection to one of the most important periods in American history gives them tremendous historical character. Today, every genuine 1943 Steel Wheat Penny represents a small piece of the wartime American economy and the story of how everyday coinage was adapted to national circumstances. One of the most exciting features of the 1943 Steel Wheat Penny is its composition and appearance. Unlike the familiar reddish-brown copper wheat cents, the 1943 steel cent has a bright gray or silvery look because its steel planchet was coated with zinc. The obverse displays the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1943. Beneath the date is the S mint mark, which identifies San Francisco as the production facility. The reverse carries the classic 2 wheat ears surrounding the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, along with the phrase E pluribus unum. For collectors, these details are important because strong lettering, clear wheat stalks, a well-defined Lincoln portrait, and a sharp date and mint mark can contribute significantly to the coin's overall visual appeal. The steel surface also gives the coin a distinctive character that makes it instantly recognizable among Lincoln wheat cents. The uncirculated condition of a 1943 Steel Wheat Penny is especially important because it means the coin can retain the appearance and detail associated with a coin that has seen little or no circulation. Collectors often look closely at the original luster, surface quality, strike strength, color, marks, and preservation of the highest points of the design. On the Lincoln portrait, areas such as the cheek, jaw, and hair can be especially useful when evaluating preservation, while the reverse can reveal how well the wheat ears and lettering remain defined. An attractive uncirculated example with strong original surfaces can stand out dramatically from heavily circulated examples. Professional grading can also bring additional confidence because a certified coin receives an authenticated grade and is preserved in a protective holder. For serious collectors, a high-grade certified 1943 steel cent can become an especially appealing addition to a Lincoln cent collection because it combines historical importance with condition rarity. The rarity and collector demand surrounding the 1943 Steel Wheat Penny come from several different factors working together. The coin is historically unusual because 1943 was the only year in which regular-issue Lincoln cents were struck on zinc-coated steel planchets as a broad wartime composition change. The San Francisco Mint issue is also important to collectors building complete Lincoln wheat cent sets by date and mint mark. While 1943 steel cents are not rare in the same sense as some of the famous ultra-rare Lincoln cent varieties, high-quality examples can become much more desirable as condition improves. This is an important distinction for collectors. The real excitement is often found not simply in owning a 1943 S, but in finding an example with excellent preservation, attractive surfaces, strong strike characteristics, and a desirable certified grade. The combination of wartime history, recognizable design, San Francisco production, and condition-focused collecting gives this coin an enduring place in the American numismatic market. When it comes to market value, the 1943 Steel Wheat Penny can range from modest collector values for ordinary circulated examples to much stronger prices for attractive uncirculated and professionally graded coins. Exact prices change according to grade, certification, appeal, market activity, and auction demand, so collectors should always compare the specific grade and quality of their coin with recent sales rather than relying on a single headline price. In the uncirculated range, values can move into the hundreds of dollars for particularly desirable examples, while exceptionally high-grade coins with outstanding preservation can reach much higher levels, potentially entering the thousands of dollars when competition among advanced collectors becomes intense. The 1943 steel cent exciting is the broader family of 1943 steel pennies and the famous errors associated with that year. Because the mint transitioned to steel planchets in 1943, these coins are frequently discussed alongside the legendary 1943 bronze cent. The genuine 1943 bronze cents are exceptionally rare and are a completely different category from the regular 1943 steel issue. This history makes it especially important to authenticate unusual-looking coins rather than assuming that every 1943 penny with a different color or appearance is a rare error. The regular 1943 steel cent is already a fascinating historical coin in its own right, and collectors can appreciate it without needing to rely on extraordinary error claims. For anyone building a serious Lincoln cent collection, understanding the difference between normal production, varieties, errors, altered pieces, and authentic rare examples is one of the most valuable skills to develop. If you believe you have a 1943 steel wheat penny in uncirculated condition, handle it carefully and avoid cleaning or polishing it. Original surfaces are extremely important to collectors, and cleaning can permanently change the appearance of a coin and reduce its desirability. Instead, hold the coin by its edges and examine it under good lighting with a magnifier if necessary. Look closely at the date, the S mint mark, the Lincoln portrait, the wheat ears, and the overall surface. If the coin appears unusually well preserved, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering, particularly when the coin has strong luster and minimal visible marks. A reputable coin dealer, established numismatic organization, or professional grading service can help provide a more reliable assessment. Collectors should also keep the coin protected in an appropriate holder and avoid unnecessary handling. Preserving the original condition is one of the best ways to protect the coin's long-term collector appeal. The 1943 Steel Wheat Penny also demonstrates why ordinary-looking objects from American history can become highly interesting collectibles. A 1-cent coin that once served as everyday pocket change during World War II can now attract collectors because of its historical connection, distinctive steel composition, recognizable Lincoln design, and potential for impressive preservation. For someone searching through inherited coins or an old wheat cent collection, discovering a sharp, bright, uncirculated 1943 S can be an exciting moment. The coin does not need to be one of the world's rarest errors to be important. Its place in the history of American coinage already gives it a powerful story, and strong condition can add another level of desirability. The best examples are the ones that combine authenticity, attractive original surfaces, clear design details, strong eye appeal, and a grade that collectors actively seek. As we reach the conclusion, the 1943 Steel Wheat Penny stands as one of the most memorable Lincoln cents ever produced. Its wartime origin, steel composition, San Francisco mint mark, classic wheat reverse, and potential for strong collector interest make it a coin that deserves serious attention. An uncirculated example is particularly exciting because preservation can elevate the coin far beyond the ordinary value associated with a circulated piece. Depending on its exact grade and market conditions, desirable uncirculated examples can bring hundreds of dollars, while exceptional high-grade specimens can attract much stronger prices and potentially reach the thousands in competitive collector markets. If you have a 1943 Steel Wheat Penny, do not rush to clean it, alter it, or sell it without first understanding what you have. Examine the coin carefully, protect its original surfaces, compare its condition with certified examples, and consider professional authentication when appropriate. The next time you see a silver-colored 1943 Lincoln cent with an S mint mark, remember that you may be looking at a remarkable wartime survivor with a story that has lasted more than 8 decades. For collectors, that combination of history, beauty, condition, and market interest is exactly what makes the 1943 Steel Wheat Penny such an exciting American coin. Number 2. The coin is a genuine 1917 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark. This is exactly the kind of old American coin that can capture the attention of collectors because it connects directly to the early years of the Lincoln cent series. The 1917 Wheat Penny is more than just an old copper coin. It is a historical piece from an important period in American history, and examples in exceptional grades, special varieties, or with strong original surfaces can command impressive prices. According to PCGS, the 1917 Philadelphia issue had a reported mintage of 196,429,785 pieces, while the 1917 Lincoln cent is known in several collectible varieties, including regular brown, red, and double die examples. So, if you have a dirty 1917 penny without a mint mark, do not immediately assume that its appearance tells you everything about its value. The real story begins with authentication, condition, variety, originality, and collector interest. To understand why the 1917 Wheat Penny is fascinating, we need to go back to the early history of the Lincoln cent. The Lincoln cent series began in 1909 and was designed by Victor David Brenner, making it one of the most recognizable coin designs in United States history. By 1917, the Lincoln cent had already become an established part of everyday American commerce. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, while the reverse carries the famous wheat ear design surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. This wheat reverse is the reason collectors today call these coins wheat pennies or wheat cents. The 1917 issue belongs to the early copper era of the series and was struck at the Philadelphia Mint when no mint mark was used. PCGS lists the coin as a 19mm, 3.11 gram cent made from approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, with a plain edge. Holding one today can therefore feel like holding a tiny piece of the America of more than 100 years ago. One of the most important things to understand about this particular coin is the meaning of the missing mint mark. On a 1917 Lincoln cent, the absence of a mint mark does not automatically mean that the coin is an error or an extremely rare mistake. The 1917 no mint mark Lincoln cent was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, where cents traditionally carried no mint letter. In comparison, coins produced at Denver generally carried a D, while San Francisco pieces carried an S. PCGS records the 1917 Philadelphia mintage at 196,429,785 pieces, compared with 55,120,000 for the 1917 D and 32,620,000 for the 1917 S. This makes the missing mint mark an important identification feature, but not by itself proof that the coin is a rare error. For a collector, recognizing this distinction is extremely important because the greatest value comes from the complete combination of date, mint, variety, grade, color, preservation, and authenticity. Now let us look closely at the unique features that can make a 1917 wheat penny especially interesting. The first feature is the date itself. A clearly readable 1917 immediately places the coin among the early Lincoln wheat cents. The second major feature is the absence of a mint mark beneath the date on the obverse, identifying it as the Philadelphia issue when the rest of the coin matches the correct specifications. The third feature is the classic wheat reverse, which gives the coin its unmistakable appearance. Another exciting area for collectors is variety attribution. PCGS specifically lists 1917 Lincoln cents with double die obverse varieties in addition to regular brown, and red examples. That means an apparently ordinary 1917 cent can become much more interesting when its design details are examined carefully under magnification. Collectors may study the lettering, date, portrait details, wheat ears, Lincoln Memorial era terminology notwithstanding, and other die characteristics to determine whether a particular example belongs to a recognized variety. The condition of a 1917 wheat penny is another major part of its story, and this is where a coin described as very dirty can become especially interesting. Dirt, dark coloration, old surface toning, and accumulated grime do not automatically tell you the coin's true collector value. A coin should be examined for the amount of original detail remaining, the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the visibility of the date and lettering, the wheat lines on the reverse, the presence of scratches or marks, and whether the surfaces appear original or altered. The difference between a heavily circulated example and a high-grade example can be enormous. PCGS estimates approximately 19 million surviving 1917 Philadelphia cents across all grades, but its survival estimate drops to roughly 3,000 examples at MS60 or better and about 1,400 at MS65 or better. This illustrates an important collector principle. An old coin does not need to be rare in every grade to become highly desirable in an exceptional grade. And this brings us to the exciting question every collector wants answered. What could a 1917 no-mint mark wheat penny be worth today? The honest answer is that the value depends heavily on the individual coin. A heavily circulated or ordinary example is not automatically a hundreds or thousands of dollars coin simply because it is 1917. However, strong collector-grade examples can move into much higher price levels, particularly when they possess exceptional preservation, attractive color, certification, or an important variety. PCGS records an auction result of $1,125 for a 1917 brown Lincoln cent graded MS66BN, while its auction database records a $38,813 result for a 1917 red example graded MS68, sold by Heritage Auctions in 2006. These results show why condition and variety matter so much. A collector should therefore think of the 1917 penny as a coin with a broad value range, rather than assuming that every dirty specimen is automatically worth thousands. The 1917 cent look newer. The goal should be preservation rather than making the coin shiny. If the coin has enough detail to justify professional evaluation, careful handling and examination can be much more useful than cleaning. Hold the coin by its edges, avoid unnecessary rubbing, and use good lighting and magnification to inspect both sides. If the date, mint mark area, lettering, and major design details are clearly visible, the next step can be comparing the coin with reputable references or considering professional authentication and grading. For collectors hunting for valuable 1917 wheat pennies, there are several exciting details worth watching. Start with the date and confirm that the coin really is 1917. Then examine the mint mark area carefully and confirm that it is the Philadelphia issue rather than a worn or damaged mint mark. After that, study the obverse for possible double die characteristics and compare the coin with authenticated examples. PCGS identifies multiple 1917 varieties, including double die obverse examples in brown, and red designations. Color can also have a major impact on high-grade copper cents, with collectors distinguishing brown, and red examples. The strongest combination is an authentic coin with excellent preservation, strong details, attractive original surfaces, and a recognized variety. Those characteristics can transform a simple old penny into a serious numismatic collectible. The collector market for early Lincoln cents remains fascinating because these coins combine history, affordability at entry levels, and the possibility of significant premiums for exceptional pieces. A 1917 wheat penny represents a period when the United States was changing rapidly, and the coin itself circulated through everyday American life more than a century ago. For collectors, that historical connection adds emotional and educational value beyond the face value of 1 cent. At the high end, certified examples demonstrate how dramatically prices can rise when preservation reaches extraordinary levels. The recorded $38,813 auction result for a PCGS MS68 1917 red cent demonstrates the upper end of what an exceptional example has achieved historically, while the $1,125 MS66 BN result shows another important high-grade benchmark. These are auction records for particular coins, not guaranteed prices for every 1917 penny, but they clearly demonstrate why serious collectors pay close attention to grade, color, variety, and originality. So, if you have a 1917 wheat penny without a mint mark sitting in a collection, an old coin box, or even among ordinary pennies, this is the perfect time to take a closer look. Do not judge the coin only by how dirty or unattractive it appears. First, identify the date, confirm the Philadelphia no mint mark status, inspect the reverse, look carefully for varieties, and evaluate how much original detail remains. If the coin appears unusual or exceptionally well preserved beneath the surface grime, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering. Remember that a market value in the hundreds or thousands of dollars is possible for exceptional 1917 examples, but the exact value depends on the coin's authenticated characteristics and actual market demand. The most important thing is to separate documented auction results from exaggerated claims and to let the coin's real condition and variety determine its place in the market. In conclusion, the 1917 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is a remarkable survivor from the early years of one of America's most famous coin series. Its age, classic Victor David Brenner design, Philadelphia origin, copper composition, wheat reverse, and potential varieties give it a strong place in the world of coin collecting. A dirty appearance should never stop you from investigating an old coin, because the most exciting discoveries often begin with something that looks ordinary at first. At the same time, the true secret to value is not simply age or dirt, it is authenticity, preservation, variety, grade, color, and collector demand. The documented market record proves that exceptional 1917 Philadelphia cents can reach impressive prices, with PCGS reporting auction results from hundreds of dollars into the tens of thousands for outstanding examples. So keep looking carefully, protect your old coins, never rush to clean them, and always investigate unusual details. That little 1917 wheat penny may be more than just 1 cent. It could be a fascinating piece of American history and, if it possesses the right combination of rarity and quality, a highly desirable treasure in today's collector market. Number 3. The 1928 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, one of the classic early Lincoln cents that continues to attract attention from collectors. At first glance, a dusty 1928 penny may look like an ordinary old 1-cent coin, but its age, historic design, copper composition, and connection to the early decades of the Lincoln cent series make it an interesting piece for any collector. The 1928 Philadelphia issue was struck in a large quantity of 134,116,000 pieces, and because Philadelphia coins traditionally carried no mint mark, the absence of a mint letter below the date is exactly what collectors expect to see on this variety. What makes this coin especially exciting is the difference that condition, color, strike quality, and professional certification can make. A common circulated example may be worth only a modest amount, while an exceptionally preserved specimen can move into much higher price levels. PCGS records an auction result of $22,800 for a spectacular MS68 red 1928 Lincoln cent, showing just how dramatically the market can reward extraordinary examples. So, if you have a 1928 wheat penny without a mint mark, stay with us because this little 1-cent coin has a fascinating story behind it and a market history that can make serious collectors pay close attention. The story of the 1928 wheat penny begins during an important period in American history. The Lincoln cent had already become one of the most recognizable American coins after its introduction in 1909, featuring the famous portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and Victor David Brenner's distinctive wheat stalk reverse. The 1928 issue belongs to the early era of the Lincoln wheat cent, when these coins were being produced in bronze and circulating throughout everyday American commerce. The Philadelphia Mint produced the no mint mark version, while Denver and San Francisco produced their own versions carrying the appropriate D and S mint marks. According to NGC, the 1928 Philadelphia cent was made from bronze, weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures about 19 millimeters, and has a plain edge. The fact that this coin is nearly a century old gives it a powerful historical identity. Imagine the people who may have handled the same penny during the late 1920s, a period when American society, transportation, industry, businesses, and daily life were dramatically different from today. Every surviving example is therefore more than just a piece of money. It is a small physical connection to an earlier America. That historical character is one of the reasons the Lincoln Wheat Cent series remains such an important part of American numismatics. One of the most important features to understand about this particular coin is the missing mint mark. On a 1928 Lincoln cent, no mint mark does not automatically mean an error or a rare mistake. Instead, it normally identifies a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint. This is a crucial point for anyone searching through old pennies because some collectors initially assume that a missing letter must be an unusual error. On this issue, however, the absence of a mint mark is the normal Philadelphia characteristic. NGC identifies the 1928 no mint mark coin as a Philadelphia issue and gives its original mintage as 134,116,000. The coin also carries the classic Lincoln portrait on the front, with the inscriptions associated with the Lincoln cent, while the reverse displays the famous pair of wheat ears surrounding the denomination and United States of America. Those wheat ears are what gave the series its popular name, the Wheat Penny. The combination of Lincoln's portrait, the wheat reverse, the 1928 date, and the absence of a mint mark creates a recognizable and historically important collectible. For collectors building a complete date and mint collection, the 1928 Philadelphia cent is an essential part of the early Lincoln series. Now comes the part that makes coin collecting so fascinating. Condition can completely transform the market importance of an old coin. A 1928 wheat penny that has spent decades in circulation, exposed to dirt, moisture, friction, and handling can look very different from one that was carefully preserved shortly after leaving the mint. A coin described as very dusty may still deserve careful examination because dirt and surface buildup can sometimes hide details that are difficult to see at first glance. The most important thing is not to judge the coin's value simply by its appearance before proper evaluation. Collectors look closely at Lincoln's hair details, the lettering, the date, the wheat lines, the overall strike, surface preservation, original color, and signs of wear. Professional grading can also become extremely important when a coin appears to have exceptional preservation. PCGS notes that the 1928 Philadelphia cent is common in circulated grades but becomes substantially more challenging and valuable in the highest mint state grades, with particularly strong premiums for top-grade examples. This creates an exciting opportunity for collectors. Even when the coin looks old and dusty, the first step is to identify it correctly and determine what condition it is actually in rather than making a quick assumption. The market value of the 1928 no mint mark wheat penny can range across a very broad spectrum because there is no single price that applies to every example. Current published market information shows that ordinary circulated pieces generally occupy the lower end of the market, while better preserved examples can rise into the tens, hundreds, and in exceptional circumstances, thousands of dollars. PCGS's Lincoln Cent Guide lists the 1928 Philadelphia issue at modest values in circulated grades and significantly higher levels in uncirculated grades. Current auction information provides an even clearer picture of how condition influences price. Gray Sheet records a 1928 Lincoln Cent MS65 red and brown selling for $104 in July 2026. While another MS66 red and brown example sold for $168 in December 2025. At the highest end, PCGS reports an extraordinary $22,800 auction record for an MS68 red 1928 Lincoln cent, sold by Heritage Auctions in January 2025. These numbers demonstrate why collectors should never confuse 1928 cent with strong original red coloration and outstanding preservation can attract much more attention than a heavily circulated example. PCGS's records show separate 1928 varieties identified as BN, RB, and RD, and its auction record for the extraordinary MS68 red coin demonstrates the premium that can be associated with exceptional preservation and color. This is where the real excitement begins for serious collectors. The coin's date alone is important for identification, but its grade, color designation, strike quality, surface condition, and certification can determine whether it remains a modest collectible or becomes a premium piece. A collector examining a dusty 1928 penny should therefore look beyond the dust and focus on the underlying surfaces. The objective is to discover what the coin actually is, not simply what it appears to be after decades of storage. Another reason collectors remain interested in the 1928 issue is its place within the broader Lincoln Wheat Cent series. The 1920s produced numerous interesting Lincoln cents, and collectors assembling complete collections often want examples from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco for the same year. The 1928 Philadelphia cent had a substantially larger mintage than the 1928 D and 1928 S issues, but that does not make every high-grade Philadelphia example easy to obtain. NGC lists the Philadelphia mintage at 134,116,000, while the Denver issue had a mintage of 31,170,000 and the San Francisco issue had only 17,266,000. The distinction is important because collectors evaluate coins not only by original production numbers but also by survival, grade, eye appeal, and availability in the marketplace. A coin can have a large original mintage and still become highly desirable in exceptional condition. PCGS specifically describes the 1928 Philadelphia cent as becoming considerably more difficult to obtain in MS67 and above, with substantial premiums for those elite grades. This is one of the most exciting concepts in coin collecting. Rarity is not always about how few were originally produced. Sometimes the real rarity is finding one that survived nearly a century with extraordinary preservation. If you are lucky enough to own a 1928 wheat penny without a mint mark, one of the smartest things you can do is protect it from unnecessary damage. Avoid aggressive cleaning, polishing, scratching, or chemical treatment because collectors generally want to see the coin's natural surfaces. A dusty coin should be handled carefully, preferably by its edges, and stored in a proper holder that protects it from additional environmental exposure. Good lighting and magnification can help reveal the date, lettering, wheat details, and surface characteristics. If the coin appears unusually sharp, lustrous, or well-preserved, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering. Certification from a respected grading service can provide an official assessment and can make a premium coin easier for collectors and auction buyers to evaluate. The goal is to preserve the evidence that makes the coin collectible. Remember that a coin's value is ultimately determined by factors such as authenticity, grade, color, eye appeal, market demand, and actual comparable sales rather than by an exciting claim attached to the coin. The best collectors combine enthusiasm with careful examination, and that approach can make every old penny discovery much more rewarding. The most exciting lesson from the 1928 wheat penny is that condition creates the opportunity for dramatic price differences. A normal circulated example should not be confused with an elite certified specimen, but the upper end of the market proves that outstanding 1928 cents can command serious collector money. PCGS reports a $22,800 record for an MS68 red example, while recent market records show much more moderate prices for lower mint state examples, illustrating the enormous spread created by grade and quality. This is why collectors should pay attention whenever they encounter an old 1928 penny that appears unusually sharp and well preserved. Even though the coin may be covered in dust or show the signs of long-term storage, its underlying characteristics deserve examination. For a YouTube audience, this is also the perfect reminder that treasure hunting with old coins is about discovery. The value is not guaranteed simply because a coin is old, but every coin provides a chance to learn about American history, minting, preservation, grading, and the collector market. When a coin combines a desirable early date with exceptional condition and strong eye appeal, the potential collector interest can rise dramatically. In conclusion, the 1928 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is a fascinating piece of American numismatic history and a coin that deserves attention whenever it appears in an old collection. It was struck at Philadelphia, where the absence of a mint mark is normal, and more than 134 million examples were produced. Its classic Lincoln portrait, historic wheat reverse, bronze composition, nearly century-old age, and place within the early Lincoln cent series give it enduring collector appeal. While typical circulated examples can remain affordable, High-grade coins can reach hundreds or even thousands of dollars, and the finest known examples can achieve extraordinary auction results, including the reported $22,800 record for an MS-68 red specimen. So the next time you discover a dusty 1928 wheat penny, take a second look. Check the date, confirm that there is no mint mark, examine the details, protect the surfaces, and consider professional evaluation if the coin appears exceptionally preserved. The greatest excitement in coin collecting comes from discovering something old, understanding its history, and finding out where it fits in the modern market. That little 1928 1-cent piece may be nearly a century old, but its story is still alive today, and for collectors, that history is exactly what makes the hunt so exciting. Number 4. The world of vintage American coins with a 1939 Lincoln wheat penny, 1 cent, without a mint mark. At first glance, a dusty and heavily circulated 1939 penny might look like an ordinary old coin, but this classic piece carries more than 8 decades of American history in its small copper surface. The 1939 wheat penny belongs to the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, a series that continues to attract collectors because of its historic design, age, varieties, condition differences, and exceptional high-grade auction results. And here is where the excitement begins. While an ordinary circulated 1939 Philadelphia cent is generally a modest value collectible, extraordinary examples with superb preservation, rare varieties, or exceptional certification can bring dramatically higher prices. PCGS records show a remarkable $36,000 auction result for a 1939 Lincoln cent graded MS-68 Plus Red, sold by Heritage Auctions in January 2025. So, if you have a 1939 wheat penny without a mint mark sitting in an old collection, coin jar, box, or inherited group of coins, don't ignore it. The important question is not simply whether the coin is old, but what exact variety it is, how much original detail remains, and what condition it can achieve under professional grading. The 1939 Lincoln wheat penny was produced during an important period in American history. It was part of the Lincoln Cent series designed by Victor David Brenner, whose portrait of Abraham Lincoln appears on the obverse. The reverse carries the famous 2 wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum above. The Philadelphia Mint produced 316,466,000 regular 1939 cents, and because Philadelphia coins traditionally carried no mint mark, the absence of a mint mark on this issue is completely normal. That detail is extremely important for anyone examining a 1939 penny, because some new collectors mistakenly believe that every valuable coin must have a letter such as D or S. In reality, the missing mint mark on a 1939 Philadelphia wheat penny is part of its identity. The coin was made from a bronze alloy consisting of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighs about 3.11 grams, and measures approximately 19 millimeters across. When you hold this coin, you are holding a genuine piece of the classic pre-World War II Lincoln Cent era, and that historical connection is one reason wheat pennies remain so popular with collectors. Now let's talk about the unique features that make a 1939 wheat penny interesting to examine. The first feature is the date itself. The large 1939 on the obverse immediately places the coin in the final year of the 1930s, making it more than 80 years old today. The second feature is the lack of a mint mark. On a Philadelphia-produced 1939 cent, there is no letter beneath the date, and this is exactly what you should expect. The third feature is the classic wheat reverse, which makes the coin instantly recognizable to collectors around the world. Another important feature is the color designation. Professional graders commonly distinguish copper cents as brown, red, and brown, or red depending on how much original mint color remains. A beautifully preserved red example can be far more desirable than a heavily circulated example because collectors compete strongly for exceptional quality coins. PCGS also documents multiple 1939 varieties, including a recognized double-die obverse variety, showing why careful examination can be worthwhile even when a coin initially appears ordinary. For a collector, the combination of date, mint mark status, variety, strike quality, surface preservation, and original color can transform the collecting story of a simple 1-cent coin. And now we come to the most exciting part: condition and collector demand. If your 1939 wheat penny is very dusty, don't immediately assume that the dirt or aged appearance means the coin has no collecting interest. Dust and surface residue can sometimes hide details that are difficult to see at first glance. The key is to inspect the coin carefully and professionally rather than trying to improve its appearance yourself. Look closely at Lincoln's hair, facial features, coat details, the date, the lettering, and the wheat stalks on the reverse. Strong, sharp details can make a major difference when a professional evaluates the coin. Collectors also pay close attention to original surfaces, color, luster, strike quality, and signs of unusual varieties. A coin that appears dark or dusty may still deserve a closer examination, especially if it has unusually strong details or a possible double die characteristic. The most exciting opportunities in the Lincoln Cent series often come from discovering something that was overlooked for decades, and that is why experienced collectors examine old coins carefully rather than judging them only by their first appearance. When we discuss the potential market value of a 1939 wheat penny, it is essential to understand that there is a huge difference between a normal circulated example and an elite certified specimen. Current reference information places ordinary 1939 Philadelphia cents at relatively modest prices in circulated grades, while uncirculated examples can rise into several dollars or more depending on grade and characteristics. But the high-end market tells a completely different story. PCGS reports that a 1939 Lincoln Cent graded MS68 plus red achieved an astonishing $36,000 at heritage auctions on January 19, 2025. This is an important lesson for every coin hunter. The existence of a five-figure auction result does not mean every 1939 penny is worth thousands of dollars. Instead, it demonstrates how powerful condition rarity can be. A normal circulated coin and an elite, professionally graded, top population example may share the same date and basic design while having dramatically different market values. For a YouTube audience, this is what makes the 1939 wheat penny so fascinating. The same 1-cent denomination can exist across an enormous range of collector values. There is also another exciting possibility that serious collectors should know about: varieties. The 1939 Lincoln Cent has a documented number 5, the 1949 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, this 1-cent coin may look like an ordinary old penny, especially when it has a dusty, dark, or dirty appearance, but the story behind the coin is much more interesting. The 1949 D. Wheat Penny was struck at the Denver Mint and belongs to the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, a series that has remained one of the most popular areas of American coin collecting for generations. The coin carries the historic Lincoln portrait on the obverse and the classic wheat ear reverse that gave the series its famous nickname. The 1949 D issue had a substantial mintage of 153,132,500 pieces, so the date itself is not automatically a rare date rarity. However, collectors pay close attention to exceptional preservation, attractive surfaces, strong strikes, original color, and especially unusual varieties such as repunched mint marks. That is where the excitement begins. The history of this coin takes us back to an important period in American numismatics. The Lincoln Cent was introduced in 1909 and was designed by Victor David Brenner. The 1949 D belongs to the later part of the wheat cent era, which continued until 1958. By 1949, the Lincoln Cent had already become a familiar part of American everyday commerce, passing through stores, cash registers, pockets, banks, and countless households. The Denver Mint produced the 1949 D variety, and the small letter D beneath the date identifies Denver as the minting facility. The coin itself is approximately 19 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 3.11 grams, with a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Those specifications help collectors recognize an authentic example and distinguish it from coins that may have been altered or damaged over the decades. One of the most exciting features of the 1949 D. Wheat Penny is the combination of its historic design and its Denver mint mark. On the front, collectors will look for Abraham Lincoln's portrait, the word Liberty, the inscription "In God We Trust," and the 1949 date. On the reverse, the two wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America create the unmistakable appearance of a classic wheat cent. The D mint mark is particularly important because it identifies the Denver issue and places the coin within a specific production group. Collectors also examine the date and mint mark carefully for unusual characteristics. PCGS catalogs several 1949 D varieties, including repunched mintmark varieties and the listed 1949 D/D RPM FS 501 variety. A coin displaying a recognized variety can attract considerably more attention than an ordinary example of the same date. Now let us talk about the condition described in this video as very rough and dirty. An old coin that has spent decades exposed to dust, soil, moisture, handling, or other environmental conditions can develop a dark and aged appearance. That appearance itself does not automatically make a coin extremely valuable, but it can make the discovery fascinating because the original identity of the coin may still be clearly visible. For collectors, the important step is to identify the date, mint mark, design details, and possible variety before making any decision about the coin. A heavily circulated 1949 D is generally a different market category from a sharply preserved mint state example, and the enormous price differences seen in the hobby are largely connected to condition, certification, color designation, rarity, and special varieties. The exciting part is that even an ordinary-looking coin deserves a careful examination before it is dismissed. A small cent can sometimes lead a collector toward a much more interesting discovery. The market value of the 1949 Steel Wheat Penny can range from a modest collectible amount to dramatically higher figures for exceptional certified examples. This is one of the most important points for anyone making a YouTube video about this coin. A dirty circulated 1949 D should not automatically be described as a coin worth thousands of dollars. The big money potential is concentrated in exceptional condition, highly desirable color, recognized varieties, and top-grade certified examples. PCGS records an auction result of $1,380 for a 1949 D Brown example graded MS60, while the red designation can reach a completely different level at the very highest grades. PCGS currently lists an auction record of $7,800 for a 1949 DRD graded MS67 Plus RD, sold by Heritage Auctions on January 19, 2025. That documented result demonstrates why condition and preservation are so important in the high-end market. For a collector watching the market, the red, red-brown, and brown classifications are also important. Copper coins naturally change color as they age, and professional grading services use color designations to distinguish brown, red-brown, and red examples. A spectacular red example with excellent surfaces and an extraordinary grade can command a substantial premium over a heavily circulated brown coin. One published value guide gives estimates for 1949 D examples ranging from under $1 in lower mint state grades to hundreds of dollars in very high red grades, while documented auction records show that elite pieces can reach thousands. These numbers should be viewed as market references rather than guaranteed prices because actual selling prices can change depending on auction competition, certification, eye appeal, variety attribution, and the exact grade. The possibility of a recognized variety makes the 1949 D especially interesting for serious collectors. PCGS lists repunched mintmark examples for the 1949 D, including BN, RB, and RD versions, and also lists the 1949 D/D RPM FS 501 variety. This means that when examining a coin, collectors should not simply glance at the date and move on. The mint mark deserves careful inspection under good lighting and magnification. A genuine repunched mint mark can become a much more interesting collectible because variety collectors actively search for unusual die characteristics. This is one reason an old coin that appears ordinary can deserve a second look. The strongest approach is to compare the coin with recognized references and, when appropriate, seek professional attribution rather than assuming every unusual mark is a valuable mint error. For anyone hoping to understand the potential market range, it is helpful to imagine the 1949 D Wheat Penny as a coin with several different collecting levels. A circulated example may be primarily a historical collectible, while a nicely preserved uncirculated piece can attract stronger interest. A high-grade red example becomes much more competitive, and an extraordinary certified specimen can enter the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The documented $7,800 auction record for an MS67 Plus RD example is an excellent illustration of the upper end of the market. At the same time, the large original mintage means that the 1949 D date by itself should not be marketed as a guaranteed $1,000 coin. The real excitement is in finding an unusually well-preserved specimen, a remarkable color example, or a legitimate recognized variety. That distinction makes the story more credible while still showing viewers why this humble 1-cent coin can become a serious collector target. If you discover a 1949 Steel Wheat Penny in dirty or dusty condition, one of the most important collector tips is to slow down and examine it carefully before doing anything to the surface. Do not immediately polish, scrape, or aggressively clean the coin in an attempt to make it shine. Original surfaces are extremely important in numismatics, and harsh cleaning can permanently change the appearance and collectible desirability of a copper coin. Instead, identify the date and mint mark, inspect the major design elements, look closely at the mint mark for possible variety characteristics, and photograph the coin under good lighting. If the coin appears unusually sharp, has attractive original color, or shows a potentially important variety, professional evaluation may be worthwhile. A reputable coin dealer or grading service can help determine whether the piece deserves authentication, attribution, and certification. The 1949 Steel Wheat Penny is therefore much more than a 1-cent piece from the past. It is a small piece of American history with a classic design, a Denver mint mark, a long collecting tradition, and a market that can become surprisingly competitive when exceptional examples appear. The coin's 153,132,500 piece mintage means the date itself is not an automatic rarity, but PCGS records show that the surviving population becomes much more limited in higher grades, with its estimates identifying far fewer examples at MS65 or better than across all grades. That is exactly the kind of information that makes serious collectors pay attention to condition. So, if you have a 1949 Steel Wheat Penny sitting in an old collection, do not overlook it simply because it looks dusty, dark, or aged. Take a close look at the date, confirm the D mint mark, examine the wheat reverse, check the surfaces, and search carefully for unusual mint mark characteristics. The biggest values are associated with the right combination of grade, preservation, color, certification, and variety, with documented high-end sales proving that exceptional 1949 D cents can reach the thousands of dollars. The most exciting part of coin collecting is that you never know when an ordinary-looking coin may reveal something special under closer examination. The 1949 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny remains an appealing target for collectors because it combines history, classic design, copper composition, variety possibilities, and strong interest in high-grade examples. For anyone exploring old American coins, this 1-cent piece is a reminder that value is not always determined by the denomination printed on the coin. Sometimes, the real value is hidden in the details, the condition, the variety, and the story that the coin has carried for more than 7 decades. And as you continue searching, remember that the most successful collectors are the ones who learn to look beyond the obvious. The 1949 Steel Wheat Penny is a perfect example of why patience and knowledge matter. A coin that begins as a simple 1-cent discovery can become a fascinating research project involving grading, mint varieties, auction records, historical production, and professional authentication. Whether your example is a circulated brown coin, a beautifully preserved red-brown specimen, or an exceptionally high-grade red example, each one has a place in the broader story of Lincoln Wheat cents. The strongest opportunities come from identifying what makes your particular coin different and documenting those characteristics carefully. With the right examination, the right reference information, and a collector's eye for detail, the 1949 Steel Wheat Penny can become one of the most exciting pieces in an old American coin collection. Its documented high-end auction history gives collectors a powerful reason to pay attention, while its classic wheat cent design gives it lasting appeal far beyond its original 1-cent face value. Thanks for watching and happy selecting. Subscribe my channel, like videos, and share videos.